on this computer. All right, I'm going to turn this segment over to Siera London, one of our tribe members and our tribe mentors. She has done a world of wonderful stuff for us, along with Kasana and Laverne Thompson, in guiding the tribe through the series for the Kings of the Castle and the Knights of the Castle and some of the anthologies, and came up with the idea for the cookbooks. Yeah. Those cookbooks are off the chain. So
Yeah.
I'm going to turn it over to her to do her thing with her friend and loving all this Black literary love
All
going
right. Well, it's good to see everybody and to read all the beautiful sentiments that's being shared in the chat. And I know Lisa said a couple of times that I've been a mentor, but that's only because other people have mentored me. And I think that's what we see repeated over and over throughout this whole weekend. So that's what it takes. All right, that's just what it takes. So I'm Siera London, and I have the pleasure of introducing my friend and my mentor, Xyla Turner. So I'm going to read a little bit of Xyla's bio. It's long, so this is by no means all encompassing, but Xyla Turner is a USA Today best-selling and multi-award winning romance author with titles like Across the Aisle, Take a Knee, Line of Duty, and Bombshell. She lives in Brooklyn, New York, and she's a dedicated educator. Outside of reading, Xyla likes to spend time with her family, catching up on her favorite shows, which I can tell you does not happen very often. I talked to her earlier today, and travel as much as her schedule permits. So, COVID, we hate you because none of us are traveling all that much.
Yes.
So, Xyla, thank you so much for being with us on the line tonight. And I'm going to start off by asking you to tell us how long you've been writing and how many books do you have?
Okay, those are all interesting questions because I don't know. I think I've been writing I think it's been over 4 years, so it's probably going on 5 soon. And I think I know I definitely have over 35 books,
Yeah.
but I don't know the specific number.
Okay. So I said all that to say this woman is a prolific writer. I have no idea why her hands aren't curled up into little balls because she has put out, I want to say about 45 published books in the past 4 or 5 years.
I think so.
And Xyla, you bring something unique to the romance market. And I'm going to ask you to speak to the marriage you've done between romance and social justice. Tell us about your titles.
So, good question. I think one of the things that I have been raised with is this notion of being, I think my mom, she won't admit it. I think she might have been a Black Panther at some point. Like, I don't know. I think she might have been. But she is, it's just like she's always been a community activist. My aunt, they started a nonprofit providing us with summer jobs over the summer. We were recycling back when recycling wasn't cute or fun, or they had the little cute blue boxes. Like before all of that, we were I lived in Philadelphia at the time, and so they've worked with state representatives and politicians, and they've always been very active. My mom, I remember a time when I have 3 brothers, and they gave her the wrong price. She was trying to buy suits at this, little boy suits at a store, and they upped the price, right? She boycotted there for 3 days. They were like, "Miss, we'll give you the suits if you just stop standing in front of like literally one woman show, like standing in front of their place of business, boycotting them, right?" And so I think with that being ingrained, I think with just growing up and really starting to understand some of the social inequities that we have, that I've seen in education. That's one of the reasons why you don't see my image, my picture. I work in the school. I'm a principal, so I don't really show my face because I don't really try to keep those worlds very separate. But I find that I try to fight social injustice in a way that, in many ways, let me put it that way. So one way, I work in a school, very active in my community, and another way, I love romance, and so I wanted to include that. I think it's, when you try to go out and venture into something else, sort of who you are seeps into that.
Yeah.
That was romance and the social justice. I think romance allowed me to share some of the questions that I had, right, especially about politics, and about some of the inequities that I saw, the way Black women were being treated, the way we see ourselves,
Yeah.
this idea of therapist and coaching. Like, I try to incorporate those things into the books because I'm an avid romance reader, but I also felt like those were not things that I necessarily read in romance books.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And you brought up politics. So your best-selling series, the Across the Aisle series, has a book. The title of it is Trent.
Mhm.
And I want you, especially at this very polarizing time, why is it that you think that book resonates so much with readers, like the issues that you brought up in Trent and with Bernadette?
I think because, Trent is like, he is.
He's an older character for those of you who like older men. I want to say Trent's like 50.
Yeah, he's in his 50s. So I
Yeah, and he's a little racist.
right.
A little bit. Just a little bit.
Right. Thank you. So, Trent is, he is definitely racist, but I think it was, again, like some of those questions. When I think of somebody like a Trent, I think of those old school politicians that are just like sitting up there going along with the flow. And I begin to wonder, how did you get like that? Why are you like that? Why do you operate with this sense of superiority and this entitlement, right? And I start thinking, what would change somebody like that? Because I love romance, because I am
Mhm.
a romantic, I'm like, oh, I know what would get you like that, a change in your circumstance, right? And thinking of like, what would an encounter with like just an old school racist white man look like with a Black woman that's not afraid of him? That's just like, get out my face and just won't take anything from him, where to the point where he's intrigued, to the point where he's just like, I have this notion about who I think a Black woman is, but that's not lining up with what I'm seeing right here. So I think that resonated with people because he was so provocative. He is literally, I mean, he is not like Donald Trump, right? But in some ways he is, because Donald, not to say anything, I don't want to be political here, but
Right.
Donald Trump is just very, like, he says what's on his mind, and that's it. That's Trent.
Yeah, he's a very polarizing character.
Right. He will just say whatever, and he doesn't hide it. Like, he's not necessarily very political at all, right? He's just like, this is what it is, this is how I think. You want money for social programs, why? Like, get it like anybody else. It's a capitalist society. Like, that's his thinking, that's all he's known, that's how he grew up. And so what you see is this unraveling of a character that's so hardcore that you I know for me, I look at TV a lot, and not TV, I look at the news a lot when I'm looking at politics, and I'm just like, how do you unravel some of this craziness that we've been indoctrinated in, right? How do you get to the place where you're so callous about Black lives or whatever, right?
Mhm.
And so I think it was him meeting his match that I think became so intriguing for people, because he was so provocative, and it was just like a woman that was just like, I don't care, like, you're provocative and so am I, you
Yeah,
know. And she just sort of met him there, and I think it was that piece that was just like, oh, I guess I could see that. Like, I could see why he's like that. And I
yeah.
could see how she could do that. I see why she's like that, and how the two of them could possibly work.
The other thing that I found intriguing about Trent and Bernadette's book is Black hair matters. Now,
Yeah.
this is a lesson in marketing for those of us who are authors and trying to win at this game. So you wrote this book, and Bernadette is a Black character, and her hair gets messed up fooling around with Trent. And
Mhm.
Trent decides he's going to go out and get her some Black hair care products and couldn't find them. Basically had to cross the border, I think from Maryland into DC or something.
Mhm.
And out of that came this huge, for you, this
Mhm.
huge marketing campaign around Black Hair Matters. I actually ordered some Black Hair Matters shower caps today.
Yeah.
So tell us, Xyla, how how do we do that? How do you tie your brand,
Mhm.
your books, and your marketing together? How do you do it? And how important is that for those of us in the industry trying to build our business?
Okay. So I think from an author perspective, right? And I think I've learned this, definitely by some of the greats that have gone before me. But also you, right? It's this notion of, people like when new authors ask about writing books, and I'm sure this has been said before, the issue that marketing for me was learning that I'm not selling a book, I'm selling myself,
There you have it.
right? And so people relate to people, right? People relate to issues. They relate to kids, grandkids. They relate to the everyday things that we deal with. Black women deal with hair, whether however you flip it, even if you are bald, you are dealing with, these basic things. That's one thing that sort of, groups us together, right? We all have different shades, kinds, types, nappy, whatever, like whatever you want to call it, we deal with it. And so I think it was this notion of playing around with like that scene, which I think, because again, I think we think of this like this white man that's just like, I don't know what to get for your hair. I just went to the black ethnic, he just bought everything in that aisle, right? And the fact that we only have a little bit, a little section in a beauty salon, right, is a problem. But he bought everything in there. He's just like, this doesn't make any sense. I can't find any black hair products. Y'all walking around talking about Black Lives Matter. He was like, black hair needs to matter. And it's sort of like set this thing, like, he's like, because he didn't understand Black Lives Matter. He was like, this doesn't make any sense. And so he says, like, black hair matters. And as I'm writing the book, I finished the book, and she keeps talking about it, right? And then I'm also writing and crafting the book Duncan, where Duncan is another white politician, very different type, different than Trent, but Duncan is like very meticulous. So Trent is trying to tell Duncan, listen, get her a shower cap because she a black woman, right? Like if you want her to stay the night, you got to make sure she got these things. And he starts
Let's
this
keep
thing
it
about
real.
the shower cap, right? And so I think for me, the marketing piece was, oh, a shower cap. Like, let me see if I can get a shower cap. And so it started with this idea of me trying to figure out how can I get a shower cap made that said black hair matters, to sort of build that brand. Because when I wrote the book, I was like, this is a crazy book. I don't know how it's going to land. I almost didn't publish it, but I was like, let me see. And I knew that if I could get this book to really start rolling and then add the merchandise with it, that would push the book even more, right? And so it was trying to push the book and the series even more. Then the more I'm loving the characters, I'm like, this could work. And so I wound up building a whole website, blackhairmatters.net, geared
Got it.
towards
I don't know. Yeah.
products and all these things around Black Hair Matters based off of that series, but really grounded in like black hair does matter. We do need shower caps and bonnets and all these other things. But it was about the series. It started with the series, but it was connecting the two because I think that's one of the things that even with one of my books, I think it was not Vega. No, it was Vega. Like it was a little boy, and it was like looking at a relationship from a little boy's eyes. Like one
Yeah.
thing, whether you have kids, I don't have kids, but whether you have kids, you can relate to that. Like kids' sort of innocence and how they're seeing things. Like I think a lot of people flock to that because they're like, I can so see that. And so I think it's like getting those elements in your book and really like playing to that piece.
Yeah. What I love about picking up a Xyla Turner romance, not only is it real, I mean, it's not very often you read a romance book and it actually acknowledges, like, don't be dunking my head in the shower. I ain't just
Mhm.
jumping in the pool with you without a plan. I mean, because that's real for me,
Right.
right? I love the realism of your books, but I also love how well crafted your heroes are.
Mhm.
You have the gift of crafting a hero that readers actually remember.
Mhm.
Trent actually came out a while ago. I think it's been a couple of
Years.
years.
Mhm.
And I have to ask you that question, like, in your opinion, what goes into crafting a hero that's memorable to women today?
So I think it's weird. I feel like I heard an actor or actress talk about this, and it's sort of kind of crazy, but I think it's, I think authors will understand what I mean. You have to really get into a character like that. Like you have to understand like who they are. And really, I'm someone that likes. I think for me, in order to tolerate a lot of different people, and because I have to work with a lot of different people, you have to understand where they're coming from.
Mm,
And for me, as a person, when I understand where people coming from, when I understand like this is this person's motivation, they don't irritate me as much, right? Like when I
true.
understand, right? You know what I mean? Like when I understand somebody, I'm like, okay, I get that. Like I used to work at a special education school, and it was my first time, and I remember being so amazed by the students there. They had language-based learning disabilities. They were on an autistic spectrum, Asperger's, like just all, and I just began to understand. And once I understood what I think was annoying to some people, it just helped me, like it helped me understand and to meet them where they were. And I think because I am that way, getting into a character is just like, yeah, Trent was a racist like jerk, but it was just like he could be a racist jerk with a clear conscience, and I understand that, and therefore I can speak in that way. I've also encountered people like Trent, right?
Mhm.
And so it's just like, okay, and but I've had to understand those people. So I think that's a big piece for me, and just people watching and understanding, but also like that curiosity. Like when I watch, like some people talk on television, in particular politicians, I'm like, who made you like that? How did you get like this? And it's that, right? It's like understanding, like I think my mind just goes to your parents were probably this way, or like this probably
Right.
happened, and so I start creating this story in my head about what I'm looking at, and therefore when you see it, it's just like like it's like people you see. I don't know if you ever see people in relationship, you look at like he is an absolute jerk, but she absolutely loves him, and
Right.
it's because he may be a jerk to everybody else, but he's not a jerk to her,
Yeah.
so.
And that's what I love about, the variety that even that we've had in the cavalcade, because regardless of what type of story you're looking for,
Hmm.
we write it.
Yep.
And I love seeing that. And it's just like what you said, how do you make the jerk like Trent, because he's a jerk, but I do like him quite a bit, but how do you make him lovable?
Right.
um and resonate with readers and get past that part that he's a jerk. And I love the way you did that by bringing it back to the Black woman that he's with over something as complex as
Mhm.
hair, because it can be, right,
Yeah.
because we need a whole system set up in place when it comes to Black hair.
Yeah.
The other thing I want to talk to you about, Xyla, because we run out of time, is you have been able to write and create a successful multi-author project. Like
Mhm.
the tribe has the Kings of the Castle.
Mhm.
Um, you've had Lady Guardians. And both of these projects have helped to elevate other authors' careers.
Mhm.
In your opinion, what makes a successful multi-author project? Like what's the bones of that? What goes into that? And how important is that for you to do something like that as an author, like going forward? How important is it for us to create opportunities like that in the market?
So I think the author before me really talked about it. Perry, I believe was her name,
Mhm.
and I think she hit it. Like there is room for everybody. It's just people helping people find their niche. And so I think one of the things that makes that important is you got to start with that mindset. Like, other authors aren't your competition, right? And so joining a collaboration is something that I really talk about even amongst my team at my school, is collaborate. You can go faster alone, but you can go further with other people, right? And it's that notion of, we can,
Faster.
I can do a lot, right? But I can do a whole lot more with a tribe of people, which is why I like events like this, which is why I like, the multi-author the projects. I think the thing about the project is you have to have a plan and a way to execute it. You also need people that on your team in that plan that want to see the end product just like you. Everybody may not be there, and that's okay, but you have to have some core members of that team. So I know for Lady Guardians, like Siera was a key component to that, right? She is somebody that if she is with you, she will latch onto your vision and she will help you push that vision forward, even if it's her pushing you, right? She will help you push that vision forward. And I've always appreciated that, because there many times still do when I need somebody like a Siera to be like, all right, Xyla, I see that, but you have to explain why you got to do X, Y, and Z. I'm like, I got to explain that. She's like, you got to explain it. Everybody don't get it. Right. So I think you definitely need you need a vision, you need a mission, you need core people that really are invested and it's a shared vision and mission, but you also need a plan. I think it's extremely important to do it, but I think it's also having the patience to sort of sustain it too. I think I started Lady Guardians and I was like, oh, this is going to go for a long time. And then, with these projects, they sort of take up a lot of your time, right?
Yes.
And I was going to do another one and I was just like, I don't have it in me. Like, I just don't have it in me. And it was so funny. I was looking at something today and I was like, I think I want to do another one. And I still was like, you don't have it in you, slow down. But I do think you have to have a plan. And you have to have a good concept and one that's sellable and one that's different. Lady Guardians was about female bikers. That was something that I did not see in the market at all.
Yeah.
And so it was very few and it was old and they definitely weren't Black women. And so that was something that I was just like, oh, that's a gap in the, I'm in my dissertation right now, but that's a gap in the research, right? And when you find a gap and you can fill that, and I didn't think it would do as well as it did, but a lot of authors participated in it, and a lot of authors like saw a lot of success even after that.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. So Dala, tell us, so we've talked about across the aisle, take a knee. So that probably tells you what that's about, you all. Because Zyla does tackle some hot button issues when they're hot, because she writes that fast. Okay, she writes that fast that if an issue comes up in the newspaper, she can have a book ready in a couple of weeks. So tell us what's next for you. What can we expect? What should we look for?
So two things, because Sierra pointed this out for me because I do things by accident. She's type A, I'm type B. So I'm like, she's like, Trent, I think did well because it came out around the same time that the elections were happening. I was like, really? I didn't even know. And so the next thing I'll be doing is releasing a novel. I'm telling you guys, I haven't told anybody else, but I'm telling you, I'm releasing a novel that closes out the Across the Track series. It's around a female politician, which I love, a Black woman. And I don't want to tell you this part, but it's so good. So she's really dealing with hair issues. And so I think that a lot of women are going to, and it's going to be a tearjerker. Like, I already feel it and I'm in the midst of writing it. But I love this book already. So I'm excited. So that's a plan. My plan is to have that come out November 11th. But then I have Trent starting what is it? He is starting
He
a
started a
reality
mess.
TV show. Yeah, he's starting a reality TV show, Mars of Venus, that TV. And so what I had readers doing and authors too was voting on who, like, literally putting the characteristics of these people together that Trent has so-called blackmailed. And readers had to vote on who would get together. And so they did their voting. And so as soon as I release this from, in November, I will start on the 3-book series that is a spinoff from Trent, So they all not like him necessarily, but he knows them. So I'll just give you that hint.
Okay.
But that is something that you will see coming up probably early next year.
Yeah. So I will say, if you all aren't following Xyla Turner, you need to be following Xyla Turner. I see we've sold some shower caps since we've been online. Amanda
Yeah.
McCoy is talking nonstop. Now she's talking about reality TV, Team
Yeah.
Mia and Spade. So Xyla, tell us how important it is, because how important it is to engage with readers. I see you do this all the time. You're talking about writing a book and you have the readers in on the process before the full concept is fleshed out. Tell us how important that is. How does that relate to us branding and marketing ourselves?
I think for as an author, like because I've written so many books, sometimes I feel like I think I've hit all the storylines. Of course, I have it right, but in my head, I'm just like, I don't know. But then I'm like, just thinking about any research, I'm like, what do people want to read about? Right. And so I do try to incorporate what the readers are thinking, and they will send me articles. I've written books that, Charlotte sent me a YouTube video of a police officer tackling a girl riding her bike. So I wrote a whole book. Crayson
Grayson.
was about that. It was a reader that sent that to me because she was like, I think you could do something with this, Xyla. I was like, okay. And so I often do go to readers because I think they have some amazing ideas. I don't have them all, right? I really, the world is usually, I think my landscape. And so I want to see what readers are thinking about, what they're interested in reading. And I'm like, you know what? If that sparks my interest, I think we can make a story out of that. I think it's uber important. They must be a part of the process. They are in this with me, right? They're the ones that keep me going when I don't feel like writing. And they're messaging me like, I just read Crayson and I can't believe it. And I know you introduced this one, so there's going to be a book. And then I get excited again. And so I love that. It keeps me going. And so I think they're a vital piece.
Awesome. So we are just about out of time. So Xyla, tell us where we can find you online.
So I'm at xylaturner.com, and Xyla is spelled Xyla Turner.com. If you're interested, I see some people, I'm getting emails. People have purchased things off blackhairmatters.net. Thank you. I appreciate all of your support with that. I also have like a social media page, which is called XylaWorld.com too. And it's basically like, just in case Facebook decided to shut down, I will still have a social media outlet
Yes.
to interact with readers and authors on. So that is XylaWorld.com. But people can find me XylaTurner.com, and I'm also on Amazon, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter as Xyla Turner.
Awesome. Well, we thank you so much for joining us tonight. We wish you much continued success. I'll be following you closely and calling you often.
Yes.
Siera,
Yes, ma'am.
sure that we introduce you as well as the host. You used all of your time on Xyla, which was good because
Oh,
here we go. I wanted to let folks know what you have to offer. Can you see the screen?
yes, I can. Thank you so much for sharing my debut series, The Bachelors of Shell Code, because the last book is on pre-order, Consuming Logan. It comes out on December 2nd. I have a little bit of everything. And the Lunchtime Chronicles, my short erotic serial with 4 other authors, launches this Wednesday. We have a book coming every Wednesday for 10 weeks, starting with Posey Park's Butter Pecan Gelato. So follow Messy Mandy, our mascot, on Facebook at Messy Mandy Presents the Lunchtime Dish.
Okay, well, we thank you both. We thank you so much, Xyla, for coming in and having a chat with us. And we hope to chat with you again soon. And
Thanks
we
for
wish
having
you
me.
much success in your career. We really
Thank you.
thank you, thank you, thank you.
Awesome.
Let's see here how this works. Let me stop.
Let's see.